Good afternoon again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We'll get to the JRC in a moment, but first, disclaimers real quick. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links are going to be right there in the description box for you, along with the corresponding labels. So if you'd like to deep dive into the Judge Rothberg Educational Center on your own time, you're definitely welcome to go ahead and do so. Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity. And of course, when speaking on such things as the Judge Rothberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. So, if you have your child, they're 16 and younger, and they are watching this, parental supervision is very much advised. Alright. Fitting and cleaning, cleaning and fitting today. So, let's go back to where we just left off here. Alright, put simply, the FDA concluded in its proposed rule and confirmed in its final 2020 ban that the risks associated with contingent skin shock are not worth taking. Anybody who has two brain cells to rub together would agree with the same. Because we're not talking about risks that were just created out of thin air to, attack the poor JRC. We have documentation from injuries that have already taken place. Like ER documents going all the way back to the 90s in regards to what types of injuries these individuals who were forced on those devices received from said devices. From second and third degree burns, to bruising, to literally the Andre McCollins incident where he was shot so many times in such a long time span that he was literally catatonic for 2 months. So, we're not debating hypotheticals here. These are legitimately things that have been documented, photographed, there's video surveillance footage. Like, there's no room for argument. What debate is there to be had when we have the receipts? That is what continues to just completely mind boggle me. Like, how in the name of God, with all this evidence, is there still somehow a debate? This is not a debate. This is us stating facts. And I'm sorry, people, I know we're in this real weird place over the last few years where people feel like they get to choose their facts and choose their alternative histories, but in this world we call reality, that's just not how things work. We don't get to choose our own facts. We do not get to choose our own truths. Sorry, but somebody had to tell you all. Okay? With hard, cold evidence like what we have against the JRC can be put right in front of you, there is no room for debate. Okay? Just saying. Anyways, let's go ahead and continue here. Although other treatments may not completely reduce or eliminate self-injurious or aggressive behavior in all patients, that does not mean ESD should be used. Because point blank, folks, the reality is there is no treatment that is going to remove those behaviors entirely, completely away, 100% forever. Wanna know how I know this? Because there's no type of treatment out in the world for neurotypicals who engage in self-injurious or aggressive behavior that's going to stop said behaviors 100% of the time. Okay? That's not reality. Reality is, but you can reduce those behaviors to the point that you are able to live and work amongst our neurotypical peers and be able to function. And that should be the goal, not some pipe dream that places like the JRC use. They peddle it to you so they can take advantage of desperate parents who simply are not being guided properly through the service system at all. They are grasping at straws. And I'm not mad at the parents. I'm mad at the overall service system that there is not better education out there and there are not more proper guides out there for these parents to help them properly navigate the service system, to let them know that things like the full functional behavioral assessment should take place before any type of intervention is so much as discussed. This is not something parents are going to automatically know. They just aren't. But anyways, in determining whether to ban these devices, the FDA balances effectiveness against the risks they pose and assess the reasonableness of such risks in light of the state of the art. In other words, but it's more works better than what's out there already. Does it? Because if you remove the device, the behaviors come back. It can only stop you in the moment. It won't stop you forever because it is not a coping technique. It is not a tool that has been developed over time to help you deal with a situation so that you don't go into those types of behaviors. It just punishes you. That's all it can do. But through pain, you learn. And what are you trying to teach them with this kind of pain, JRC? See, nobody ever seems to answer that question, do they? Let me go ahead and continue here. The state of the art is to use positive behavioral intervention, sometimes in conjunction with pharmacotherapy, even for the most challenging of SIB and AB. The unsubstantiated claim that ESDs are uniquely effective for refractory individuals does not alter that conclusion. Exactly, as I've said and used many times as an example. If my brother punched me in the face while I was going into a meltdown, it may temporarily stop the meltdown. However, what they don't tell you is, like, it stops me for all of 2 seconds before the meltdown roars back. 5 times worse than it had been previously. And that's usually how individuals end up getting very hurt. Just for starters. Some of us are resistant when in meltdown from a whole lot of shit. In particular, those of us who have already had trauma and, like me, may have rage issues. Because I could go into flight or fight, and if I gone into fight, and yeah, first off, right? Number 2, even if it does stop the behavior, I'm not about to invite my brother to move in here rent-free as a living embodiment of a meltdown deterrent by starting to have a meltdown and him coming out of the room to punch me in the face. No doctor's going to be writing a prescription for that particular treatment program. but we're supposed to accept this as the only way. It makes no coherent sense. There's no way to defend it. It makes no sense. Let me continue here too. And medicine is not the boogeyman everyone makes it out to be. Are they corrupt? Yes. Are they technically big pharma? They manipulate and own a lot of things. You don't say. However, as a corrupt, powerful entity, the number one rule is always cover your own ass. Always. So what that means is anything big pharma puts forward, they're going to have it tested within an inch of its life before putting it on the market. And the doctors who prescribe those medicines also jump through quite a few hoops before they do so. Because if they prescribe that medicine and something goes very wrong, guess who's also culpable along with that pharmaceutical company? That's right. You see, those court cases are not cheap. Settling out of court is not cheap. The big pharma does not want to be shelling out billions and billions of dollars to settle out all these lawsuits because it affects their bottom line. They're going to do what they have to do to cover their own ass, which means they are going to follow protocol to the letter. They are going to make sure that the tests have all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted. They're going to make sure when doctors prescribe these medications that it's not going to be a situation that turns the kid catatonic, because that's the sort of thing that parents tend to frown upon. Which means they may not go to that doctor. Which means that doctor is no longer prescribing that medicine. Which means the pharma company is not getting that money from that doctor having prescribed said medicine. Okay? Let's be logical here. Alright? Companies motivated by that level of self-interest and self-motivation are not going to go out of their way to go shopping for lawsuits to spend billions of dollars on lawyers.
You're going to have to start over probably. Internet is down.
Alright, let's go ahead and continue here. In sum, the FDA's compilation of evidence provides comprehensive and compelling evidence of a significant change in the professional standards of care, justifying the legislator's rejection of aversive interventions in favor of more safer, more effective treatments. B. The majority of states have limited or prohibited the use of contingent skin shock and or other painful aversives, including through legislative action, which we've gone over. Out here, Missouri especially, we had one. You know they did, because quite a few parents and self-advocacy groups basically stopped our senators up on Capitol Hill and Jefferson City until they did. And that's how I spent 2007 and 8. Well, all through the 2010s, actually, to be honest. Recognizing clinical advances in the field, the majority of states have severely limited or banned aversive interventions. As one legislator concluded, research does not support the long-term efficacy of aversive behavioral intervention. The use of aversive or abusive treatment raises disturbing legal and ethical issues and may well deprive the recipient of constitutional or statutory rights and be outside the ethical guidelines imposed upon the treatment professional. Any person with a disability has the same right to be treated with dignity and respect as any other citizen, and the use of aversive and abusive treatments on any person with a disability diminishes the dignity and humanity of treatment professional and a person with the disability. And that pretty pretty much just says it all, doesn't it? It certainly does to me. And on that note, folks, we're going to go ahead and close out. We don't get very many views on this channel, and a few we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Please don't forget to hit the comments. I appreciate your time. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you all in a minute. Goodbye, everyone.
I need to push the button on the router. This may or may not do. But yeah, the internet is down. And the router was so confused, I couldn't even remote into it. Okay, we are turning back on.